right, Education Finance Committee is reconvening. Thank you for your patience. And all right, so we were taking testimony, and so Mr. Walseth, if you want to come down, and then we'll have the commissioner come back. So I am honoring some requests in the interest of marital harmony. So.
Madam Chair, members, thank you, Sam Walseth. Yes, my wife and children appreciate getting Dad home, and my wife can get to her professional event this evening. On behalf of the Minnesota Library Association, I do want to thank you, Madam Chair, for the inclusion in Article 6 of the repurposing of regional library telecom aid for additional technology-related purposes. I'm usually told I'm too loud. All right. And the additional timeline to expend those dollars and not have them canceled back to the general fund. So just appreciate the committee's attention to that issue. I do have 12 regional library directors who all as of 2 o'clock this afternoon had called in and said, yes, we support that, the House position. So thank you, Madam Chair, for that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walseth. Anything else? Any questions for Mr. Walseth? Right? Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I just speak for a little bit for the Minnesota Rural Education Association too, just very briefly?
You may.
Just want to say thank you for the inclusion of the cooperatives in the Safe Schools initiative. We kind of talk about them in the rural areas as kind of our long lost cousins of rural education, and we really appreciate the attention to their needs and the students that they serve in their capacity. So thank you for the attention to the cooperative entities in the Safe Schools proposal. With that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions and appreciate the time today.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walseth. Again, any questions for Mr. Walseth? All right. Thank you. And Commissioner, if you want to come up, I understand. Did I hear it's your anniversary today? Oh.
What a better way to spend it.
Be nice.
Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you for coming back. And
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Questions for the commissioner, or I don't know if you had any other comments you wanted to make. We kind of hurried things around a little bit.
Madam Chair, I think the only comment is that, the bill came out today. We're still reviewing it. We're anxious to continue to work with you and the policy chair around those items that we still have disagreement. And so happy to get to that work. And then I shared with you the Safe Schools bill. Looking forward with hopefully being able to move that a bit sooner to the governor. And I think that's all the comments that I have, and then I'll stand for questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Representative Creasy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here, Commissioner, and thank you for your work. As I think about the comments you made earlier, and you mentioned the discipline rules and the zero policy and your concerns about that, and I thought long and hard about that between now and then, and I thought, what is our response as legislators? I mean, this has become so serious for schools. How do we go back to our schools and say to them, we don't take these threats seriously? Or how do we go back when there are times that we can say things that are deemed offensive and we take those very seriously, but the ultimate offense is when one kid makes even offhanded fatal comments to another student. I mean, we live in different times, and so I'm not calling into question what you said. I'm actually asking, how do I go back to my constituents and say, I didn't take action on this, and I'm sorry your third grader said that, but your third grader said I'm going to kill you. And we live in times that are difficult. So, and maybe it's just a comment, but I was thinking a lot about what you said.
Yeah.
Commissioner.
Representative Creasy and Madam Chair, I agree with you wholeheartedly that we have to take these matters extremely seriously. It's just that these are better left with the local school district to take them seriously. The Pupil Fair Dismissal Act gives them expulsion authority. They have appeal authority to the commissioner. Families do if they feel they've been wronged by the school board. And most school boards actually do take that pretty seriously, their expulsions. And so I think that it's it's just better left with them. They know the child, they know the family situation, they know what's going on if the student has an IEP, and because you have to be very careful when students who have a disability, and this may be a manifestation of that disability, we can't just mandate that that student get expelled. That has to go through a process, due rights process for that student. So it's just better left with the local school district, in my opinion. And I think that, people can understand that. And many times that the students who are having threats or posing threats or doing these kinds of behaviors in schools, many times those students have significant trauma in their life that has gone unaddressed, or significant trauma that has recently happened that people are aware of. And so I just think it's better left with the local school district who knows that child.
Representative Grisha.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that.
And that's why we're doing the threat assessment as well.
And this is probably more of a rhetorical argument and just discussion than it is agreeing or disagreeing with you, because I mean, I can see myself all over the spectrum. However, the margin of error is so slim now. Yeah. And I think that as legislators, and I understand, I've argued that other side of local control. I've argued that school board should be there. However, I also look back over the last 6 years and the efforts that we have done around anti-bullying and threat assessments and saying the inappropriate things to students in the hallway, texting and all that. Unfortunately, our margin of error is too slim. And it's probably more of a discussion about how society has changed, but I don't know as legislators if we can get that wrong anymore. I cannot go to a parent that says, my kid was told that bodily harm was going to be due to them, and the school board decided to do nothing. That's just a discussion, and I think it's just a sign of the times.
Other questions? Representative Moran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think I wanted to speak to that comment about, the signs of the times and everyone on high alert and the impact that has on school. But I also remember a time when we was in the same type of mode and we did this zero tolerance piece. And I want to believe that the safety is a priority for everyone, right? We want kids to go into school and feel safe. We don't want them to be bullied, starting from bully to physical harm. I think that's something we all can agree with. But I remember one of my sons when, I think he was in maybe the 7th grade, and he had bought one of these little beamer things that I can point at you and it's red. Had no idea that it was against the school policies or against, and found himself being suspended for several days for that, right? Because we here we had placed at this higher level this whole zero tolerance, and that even when I went to talk to the principal and the teacher, their answer to me was, there's nothing we can do about it. It's the policy. We just have to live with it. Even though it wasn't causing any harm, it was just part of that whole zero tolerance piece. So I just mentioned that because, I think often here we want to mandate things, and I think we have to just leave some of that to individual schools, to some local control where they know their kids, they know their family, they may know the community better than we do, and they can better deal with that. And I would think and hope that, as they make those decisions, that it really is about the safety of, each and every school, a child in the school, a teacher in the classroom, that is a priority. And so, I'm hoping that, as we work on safety and what that looks like, that we can come to some place that's a happy medium, or whatever that may be. I have no idea what that is and what that can be, but that we be careful too about how we mandate things from here and put a slate on, what needs to be done across the state in general.
Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Representative Grisha, Representative Moran, too. when a student does give a threat, for instance, if, let's say the student has an IEP, or maybe it doesn't even have an IEP, there's a number of steps that school districts go through to fact find and then do investigation. Oftentimes, they do have DPS, school safety involved. We can do threat assessment upon return of the child, and then there's also return procedures that are necessary if the child is to return, if it's deemed that the child is no longer a threat to others. And so I think that process has worked well. I understand the times and how difficult and scary it is for parents, and that's why I think it's just so much more important for us to have not only school facility kind of investments, but also to continue to look for investments in counselors on this prevention side, school climate, PBIS, which we've supported in the past, all of the other things around school climate and culture and intervention, counselors, social workers, mental health grants that you're doing, all of that is going to be important in terms of wraparound for some of our more troubled youth. And the intermediates as well, and the support that we've given to them when we have students who have very complex issues.
Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner, listening to the discussion here, I share Representative Moran's concerns. We went through to zero tolerance, and we had farm kids who were working in the morning before school get expelled because they brought a knife that they'd been using on the farm to school because they just forgot it was with them. Yeah. And the zero. So, listening to Representative Krisha, where the scenario was a student makes threats of violent bodily harm to my child, and his scenario was we have to mandate that the school district expel the student who made the threat, or we do nothing. And is that the situation, that it's either expulsion or the school districts aren't allowed to do anything? Because I think if we're in different times and we need to respond, imagine how the school staff are feeling and how attuned they are to when a kid makes a threat, and whether it's a threat that that child may have a pattern of behavior of carrying through on, or if it's some kid having a bad day saying a stupid thing that we're now going to expel. So are those the two choices, expulsion or nothing, as Representative Krisha presented? Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Representative Dabney, now I've only had some time with the specific language in the bill, and it was brought to as a concern to me, but I'd be willing to work on the language so that it works in a way that's supportive to students, and we have pupil fair dismissal language that we have in the governor's policy. But I do believe if a teacher hears a threat, there are times when kids say things that they don't really mean, and they need to be counseled differently. But then there are times when kids say things and it's very serious, and there needs to be a threat assessment. And that's why a threat assessment is very important here with the professionals who would make that judgment. And so those professionals are available from the Department of Public Safety to help out, as well as many districts have other crisis teams that they consult as well. So I just really strongly believe that you aren't just with expel or do nothing. I think that there's a lot schools can do to help children who are having very difficult situations and making those kinds of threats.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm listening to this conversation, and it's very enlightening, and I think balance is important here, like you're saying, Commissioner, and actually other people are saying this too. And it's so important that we make sure we look at this and there are no unintended consequences. I know we had a situation in one of my district schools in Wells where there was a knife situation that got way overblown, and some unintended consequences came as a result of that. And at the same time, we have a very critical time period in our society right now, as Representative Prisha said, and so where is that balance? I do have a question, and I'm not sure if this would come from our technical people are not here, but on line 13.5 and .6, where it says a school board may modify this expulsion requirement for a pupil on a case-by-case basis. Does this leave open then the opportunity for a school board not to expel a student for an entire year, or maybe look at the individual circumstances of a student? I'm just curious as to what that exactly means.
Ms. Farah?
Madam Chair, Representative Bennett, yes, that last sentence does grant the school board some discretion to modify the expulsion.
Representative Bennett?
So thank you. So maybe this does give that balance then, and I think we should look at it more carefully too, but where we're saying we're going to make a big stand here and say students who do this type of thing, major things are going to happen. But at the same time, it does leave, I think, some possibilities for a school board to modify that according to a student who's maybe, like Commissioner, like you were saying, in special ed or so on. So I just wanted to bring up that point. Whether that's enough or not, I don't know, these two lines, but your thoughts on that, Commissioner?
Commissioner?
Madam Chair, Representative Bennett, I think my biggest concern is that the default is first to expel, and then on a case-to-case basis. And I think that could invite some sort of subjective nature to the issuing of the punishment. And so I think that it would just be, the school districts already have discretion to expel on a case-by-case basis. And I think that they do this, often, every year of school. Many districts have to really weigh these decisions. And so, again, I think that having it be the default is mandated presents all kinds of problems, as pointed out by your colleagues.
Representative Tice?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner Casilius, I guess I'm just really not sure how I feel right now about what we've been talking about. 20 years ago, my son was in 7th grade. He was pushed from behind into the lockers by a student who had a history of being violent. He ended up with a concussion, and when we met with his mom and stepfather, I guess I wasn't prepared for what they asked, and that was basically press charges, because they were having a hard time dealing with him, and there's sometimes they weren't finding the right way to get him help. So he was expelled from the school, and he was in I don't even know for sure where he went, but he went to like a detention facility for a while, and my son knew exactly when he came back. And we had to talk about it quite a bit. So it's really hard to say that, if he would have stayed there, it would have been very hard for my son, and I think we probably would have had to take him someplace else. Now, yesterday was quite an interesting day for our community, where there's an 8th grader, or a 8-year-old, and I kind of look at, what do you do there? I mean, what do they do? I really don't know what they do. What are some of the options? And, when you're talking about kids of that age and they're very scared, what do you do? I have no clue. So, I mean, this is a hard conversation to have. I think a lot of us are going, wow, what happens? I mean, you don't want to ruin a kid's life, but yet, in order to make the rest of the kids feel safe, what do we do? Do we have options available?
Commissioner?
You mean legislators have options? Madam Chair, Representative, clarify who are you talking about?
Schools.
Like, what do schools do?
Schools, communities.
Right, yeah. Well, Madam Chair, Representatives, probably Sue Abernathy.
Aberholden.
Aberholden probably would be a better person to answer it, as she's absolutely an expert in these areas, of which I'm not. I mean, I've had certainly a lot of experience with students who exhibit behaviors that we would consider violent or inappropriate for school. And you just do the best you can to create good, welcoming, loving communities in your schools, enriched with great teachers who care about kids and set up high expectations for them around their behavior and routines. And you hope that things don't happen, but schools are little microcosms of the larger society, unfortunately. And so you have to enlist the professionals in the school to work with these kids and these families. I wish, and it's unfortunate that Minnesota does not have social workers and school nurses who can manage the complex needs of kids who maybe have other medical needs as well, or the trauma that students come with. Some schools are now using restorative justice for kids where, they get the kids working, everybody has to agree to it, but where they work on these things and make things right with one another. But it is, it is getting more and more complex because of our current context out there in the world and what kids are exposed to in media, on the news, sometimes in their homes, with some of the increases in drug use and those sorts of things. These are why it's so important to have all these well-rounded kind of supports for children and for families, to deal with the opioid crisis, to deal with child abuse, which is, it just is so unfortunate that it's gone up in Minnesota, to work with trauma-informed instruction and help teachers really understand trauma for kids, and to have support professionals in schools like nurses and counselors and social workers. All of that matters in de-escalating a child from doing what a child did yesterday. When you have lack of resources in a school, then children don't have the supports they need. And so I really strongly urge this committee to really look at that in the next funding session. It would be good to even have a working group that looks at these kinds of things. I know I think it was 2011, we had several working groups going on several different things that we wanted to look deeper at, and really kind of these dilemmas that we haven't really found solutions to yet within our schools. And, I'd be willing to do that work as long as I'm commissioner, because I think it's really important work.
Representative Tice?
Just a quick comment. The school is only a couple blocks from my son's house, and if my grandson hadn't been born in October, he would have been there.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He's 5, so it really is kind of scary that that's the school they'll send him to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to not be home at these times because you don't hear
I can imagine.
you don't hear what's going on.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I can imagine. We, Madam Chair, I just want you to know I did call the superintendent right away, spoke with him, offered our assistance with crisis management, our communications director to help manage communications and distractions if there was national media and others, how to communicate with parents, all of that. So I did reach out to the superintendent and speak with him immediately. And I try to do that when I hear about it. I try to call the superintendent and offer our assistance as soon as possible when we hear those things.
Any other questions for the commissioner? Representative Moran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to reiterate some of the things that I heard the commissioner talk about when she talked about trauma and having trauma-informed environments and having professionals available to deal with the multifaceted issues that kids are going through and families are going through. So just want to do a little shout out for that work group that we've been looking at in Health and Human Service, but it's really is about education too. It's about outcomes and how we can, get a hold of some of this trauma and create different environments where kids can thrive in. And so just wanted to mention that again, and the importance and the value that brings.
Right. Yeah, and I think, good discussion by committee members. And again, this is a difficult issue to tackle, because I also know from ever since the Parkland shooting, there's around the country, but also in Minnesota, there've been, I don't know whether it's copycat or not or something, but for every student that has to endure many hours of lockdown, that's traumatizing for them too, and not wanting to go to school and not feeling safe anymore, even if it turns out the threat was not valid. And so it's how do you take a strong stance discouraging that kind of action, but also allow for latitude in terms of whatever consequences may eventually be meted out. So anyway, so just trying to describe a little bit of the purpose behind the language and also the sort of the safety valve there for the school board to make alternative decisions, so. Anyway, I don't know if anybody have other topics they wanted to cover with the commissioner. I, don't want to keep you here longer than we have to because I know it's going to be a long week, so.
I still have an hour.
Okay, all right.
Not that I want to sit up here for an hour.
No. Okay, I don't see any more questions from committee members, so I think we'll continue with public testimony. And if you're able, stick around, Commissioner, and we call you back as somebody, a conversation triggers, great, but obviously we understand your time. Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, I just, I listened carefully to your lists of thank yous and your lists of things we should reconsider a little bit. And Madam Chair, I went back after the committee meeting and I read some of my emails, and it seemed that my emails were full of, well, not full, but 6 or 8 emails from people talking about vaccinations and the education bill. Do we have something about vaccinations in this education bill?
No, but let me confirm with.
And so
I went through it 3 times. I didn't see anything, but Ms. Barra?
Madam Chair, Representative Murphy, no, there's nothing about vaccination.
Okay, and so what do we do in the local school districts where a parent comes and says, I don't want to have my child vaccinated, I didn't want my child vaccinated, and I'm not going to have my child vaccinated? Is that local control too, or is that parent control?
Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Representative Murphy, I believe that's handled at the Health Department. And I do think, I did hear that there's some consideration of, and some member introduced, I'm not sure which body, some legislation around repealing of the philosophical objection to immunizations. I think it still leaves in the religious reasons, but it would take out the philosophical objections. Now, I haven't seen the language of the policy. I think it's headed in the Department of, I think it's in the health bill. But somebody introduced it. Maybe Representative Erickson has more information about it, but I haven't seen it. I just hear you saying yes over there, but I haven't seen the language, and I don't think it's in either of the Senate or the House policy bill that I'm aware of.
Okay, I got the
I think it's through the
Representative
Department
Madam
of
Chair,
Health.
Commissioner, I got the impression from reading the letters that they weren't necessarily, the parents that were asking about this weren't necessarily opposed to vaccinations in all considerations, in all situations, but for a particular reason, they might not want it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, where, they didn't say anything about this, and so I thought I'd ask, since you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Good question. All right. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. All right. We'll continue working our way down the list. And our committee administrator says he has them in the order in which people contacted him. So Scott Kroonquist with AMSE, he's here. And then on deck is Gary Amoroso. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Scott Kroonquist with the Association of Metropolitan School Districts. And I'm going to be brief because I know you have a long lineup there, and we've had opportunities to already testify on the policy issues, so I'm going to refrain from that as well. Although I will just say we appreciate a lot of the progress that you've made in some of those areas. You and Representative Erickson, Chair Erickson, continuing to streamline some of those and remove some of the more burdensome aspects of them. Let me start off by thanking you very much for the school safety proposal. I think you have a very robust school safety proposal. Especially appreciate expanding the allowable uses of long-term facilities maintenance revenue. that will give another tool to school districts. And also, of course, increasing and equalizing the Safe Schools levy and also making available an allowable use to pay off bonded debt. Again, provides more flexibility to your school districts. Also, very much appreciate the School Link Mental Health Grants, very successful program, as all of you know, and our districts are very eager to take advantage of that. We've testified many times on the Special Education Working Group. We appreciate that. And then let me just add to that, Madam Chair, members, we hope that as we move forward in this process, your target will get higher. And if it does, we think special education would be our top priority for investments there, similar to something along the line of what the governor proposed, we think would provide a lot of relief for your local school districts. So I'm going to stop right there, Madam Chair. Thanks. We look forward to working with you and members of the committee the rest of the session.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Kronquist? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. Oh, and I'm sorry, yeah, Ms. Dolson, you were here and testifying instead of Mr. Amoroso. Sorry, we had that
Correct.
noted. All right, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Mr. Amoroso is not able to come back tonight, so I'm here today speaking on behalf of the Minnesota Association of School Administrators. My name is Valerie Dosland. I literally could have had Mr. Kronquist give the MASA testimony, but I will add just a few more things. First of all, I would like to thank the chair and the committee for their work. You know, we know session can get long, and you hear from us often, and we darken your doors regularly, and we appreciate your time and attention to listen to our concerns and our ideas. I'd like to just thank you for the school safety proposal. As Mr. Kronquist indicated, it is a robust proposal. I hope that you can continue to do more as the bill moves forward through conference committee. Really support the expansion of the long-term facility maintenance revenue, as well as for the inclusion of the intermediates and the co-ops in the Safe Schools revenue. I'd like to thank you also for making the change on the background study language for teacher background studies to making it to every 5 years. I think the original bill it was every 2 or 3 years. That change is appreciated. I'd also like to thank you for listening to our concerns on the student data provisions. Appreciate the new language that's in the bill. And then just quickly, I want to add, again, we hope that target will increase. And as we've indicated in all of our conversations with you, Safe Schools is a priority, as well as funding the special ed cross subsidy. So hope that some additional traction can be made on that as we move forward. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Dolsland? All right, thank you very much. Let's see. Grace Kelleher. And then Tom Citron Heisem, St. Paul Literacy Consortium.
Good evening, Madam Chairman.
Good evening.
Members, my name is Grace Kelleher, and I represent the Minnesota School Boards Association. And we want to start out by recognizing what we consider to be the hallmark feature of this session, which is the multifaceted approach to safe schools. And we really want to compliment you on that, especially when you're looking at putting in a floor for school districts, the equalization, more flexibility with long-term facility maintenance. We think it is a really well thought out bill from the best of a lot of members' bills that went in for a testimony and to listen to it. We would like you to think about expanding the Safe Schools levy, though, to consider cybersecurity. I think when we originally started session, we thought that was a really good move till Parkland happened and the world actually shifted. We're excited about Representative Bennett's telemental health. We're excited that it would go out to 49% of the districts who don't have what 51% of them have, and we think that could be really beneficial. Thank you for the Special Ed Task Force. That's been an MSBA priority. We like the new health curriculum being permissive. We'll think that's a good way to approach those subjects and move districts forward. We want to thank Representative Lomer for her language on bond referendums. She's made some real big strides there, and we're very happy and comfortable with her new language there. We also want to thank you for the adjudication background check. That would really take up the screen and be very clear who we're hiring and making sure our kids are safe, so we appreciate that language. We have a couple of concerns. We continue to be concerned about the star rating. We're concerned about the dyslexia screening and the mandate there. We're concerned about threat assessments, and in particular, there's an idea that there's an oversight group and there's the threat assessment team to go forward. Now that works really well in a lot of districts. There's some really small districts out there. So it'd be nice if it didn't maybe say a group, but or a team, and a team can even be 2 people going forward, depending on what the school district looks like. And on 1126, when you talk about a threat, the words say sufficient information, and we'd like a little bit more clarity. Is that reasonable doubt? Is that preponderance of the evidence? What is the standard you'd like us to use to qualify a threat? We also are somewhat concerned about the repeated history of funding grants, and really not with the idea that they be replicated statewide. And we've always sort of hoped grants are sort of the testing ground going forward. And we'd like you to continue to encourage not only for one-time purposes, but how can they be brought to the state long-term. We have a concern about the library telecommunications funding. Basically, that telecommunications funding was done for libraries and schools, and in a budget-cutting era, schools were cut off from becoming fully funded. So when the libraries come in and say, yes, we'd like to spend that money in different areas, we understand that. Libraries are wonderful things. But we really do think that $2 million gap we've got with K-12, those few dollars would really help move us forward. And let me give you an example. St. Cloud pays 85 cents a child for internet connectivity. Contrast that with Ivanhoe, who pays $146.77 for connectivity. This is basically not fair around the state, and the money invested in here would be able to maintain fairness there. So we'd like you to strongly consider moving it away from libraries and really funding this one piece that's still hanging out there from cuts years ago. And last but not least, if your target rises, we'd love some more money in safe schools, but we'd also appreciate special education. That's really the black hole, and hence the impetus for the idea that we use a special education task force going forward. So, Madam Chairman, thank you for the time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kelleher. Any questions for Ms. Kelleher? All right, thank you for your testimony. And Mr. Citron Heisen, I'm sorry, I need my glasses. Citron Heisen.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Tom Citron Heisem, and I represent Literacy Action Network. I just wanted to speak very briefly about House File 3887, authored by Representatives Moran and Peterson. This was the updating of the North Star Digital Literacy Assessment, which is used statewide in libraries, adult basic education programs, workforce centers, and nonprofits to help assess the digital literacy skills of lower skilled adults who are preparing for college or for employment. We really appreciate, Madam Chair, you giving us a hearing on the bill. We're obviously disappointed that at least at this point it hasn't been able to be funded. But we're asking for, we're doing a $400,000 upgrading of the assessment to represent to take into account all the increased technological change that has happened in the 6 years since we began using it. The total cost is $400,000. We've raised $250,000 now of it from other sources, mostly foundation grants and so on. So we're asking for $150,000. We're hoping that should your target change or there be some way of finding some money that it might be included in the final bill. I'd like to emphasize that this is a one-time ask. All of our operating expenses are already covered ongoing through the fees that sponsor sites pay. And we think this would be a really important investment to help keep the Minnesota's workforce, especially those people that have lower skills, prepared for work and for higher education and be able to become more economically independent. So I thank you for your time and your consideration, and hope that you might be able to find some way to fund this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. All right, Josh Downham, and then following him, Roger Aronson, and then Sue Aberholden.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Josh Down, Minneapolis Public Schools. Just want to make 5 quick points. The first is thank you for the additional school linked mental health grants. As you'll recall from our visit to Bethune this past year, they said they could use 3 times the resources that they currently have and would still have kids on the waiting list. And it really is triage mode. One of the requests I would have, and I'm not exactly sure how this language works, but to ensure that districts that currently receive them but that don't have them at all sites would be able to apply for those sites that don't currently receive them. On a broader issue, and I understand we're not in a budget year, but as we struggle with our budget, the special ed, in particular the special ed tuition billing, has become a major source of pain for us because we can't control those costs. We simply write the check. And I've shared our concerns about that with you and hope, whether it's the special ed working group or in a future session, we'd love to look at how those charter schools and open enrollment students' needs are met, ensure that they get what they need, but that the costs are contained as well. On the issue of threat assessment teams, as I read the language, we would have 62 threat assessment teams. I would suggest perhaps a district one with a point person designated at each building or something to that effect. Having 60 would get pretty unwieldy, but happy to work with the committee on that language. And also, Madam Chair, would love also to assuming you do get a few more dollars in your target, to prioritize the expiring statute that allows late arriving English learners access to early middle college. I know it's a small amount of money, but it really provides an incentive for a lot of our kids at Wellstone to continue and make great progress at that school. So it's not in this bill, unfortunately, not in the Senate bill, and it will go away because it expires. And then also, Madam Chair, appreciate the changes made to the rating system pieces. I still would suggest perhaps giving authority to the department to look at that vertical alignment because even the language, the growth measures in the revised language still requires comparing year to year. It's slightly different, but it still does require that kind of 4th grade to 5th grade comparison. Even though it's about moving within the 4 quartiles. So those are my comments. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Downham. Any questions for Mr. Downham? All right, thank you for your testimony.
Thank
you. Evening,
Welcome.
Madam Chair.
Good evening.
I'm Roger Arnson. I represent the Elementary and Secondary Principals Association. We're here to talk about House File 4328 tonight. I want to thank you for that opportunity, Madam Chair. We want to thank you for the dollars that you've put in here. We actually look forward to spending some of them. We hope that you make it through the entire process, and if we improve the target, great. If you keep this where it is, great. You're going to have to work with some of your colleagues on the other side, but some of the targets that you've directed the money into, SRO training, the threat assessment teams, et cetera, I think we're going to have the ability to do some really good things with those funds, and I think that was clever and smart. For you to put the money there. We think the policy that you've come out with in the bill here continues to get better. The threat assessment language that you've adopted and put in here makes a lot of sense to us. I think Mr. Downham's comments are very well taken about, how do we streamline this in the large district. We appreciate the inclusion of language in here that says we're going to put these teams together to the extent practicable with the experts that are available. And that's going to make this quite a bit easier for us as we're going to try to implement this. I looked at the new provision that you've added on the mandatory expulsion in the event of a threat. That actually parallels a statute that we already have in existence that was adopted in 1995 as part of the Gun-Free Schools Act. And it's the language, I'm certain staff modeled it after that says if a student's in possession of a weapon in schools, that it's a mandatory expulsion, and the board can modify that on a case-by-case basis. This provision just takes a different fact pattern and does the identical thing to it. I think that's probably a good thing as we work through this, given the severity of the issues that you're talking about here, and underlying them and drawing attention to them. Boards still have the discretion there. I think Representative Tai's questions relative to the issues here, those are really good questions. And in the future, I think that as policymakers, you need to spend a lot of time talking about this. I do think it's always important to keep in mind, though, on the expulsion piece, even though we expel a kid under Minnesota law, the district still has the obligation to provide services to him or her. We never put anybody out of the system and on the street. It's just how are we going to change the delivery of services to that child where that makes sense. And the challenge of how to do that with a second grader, that is a significant challenge. But frankly, schools are up to it and they work on it every day. It's a resource issue. We think that one of the key components in here, and this came from Chair Erickson, has to do with the non-exclusionary discipline language that gives schools the authority to use this when is appropriate. And that's a big change here that clarifies some existing language as well. But we really like that language a lot, and we're going to work hard to see if that can't stay in the bill. Civics is civics, Madam Chair. We'd like to be able to do that in 9th and 10th grade and maybe blend it in with some other classes, but we know how civics tends to be connected to the bonding bill, and so we'll just continue to work on that. Madam Chair, we appreciate the clarifying language that got added in the lunch shaming provisions in the bill here. We think that that meets the author's intent, and we think that we're able to work with that. Finally, the dyslexia provisions are of concern to my elementary clients. You know, this is the third year now we've talked about dyslexia. I think we're going to take the language that you put in here, see how we can work with that. We'll probably be back to talk about it some more. This is a complex issue, and it's going to require, I think, a lot of analysis in the future. But clearly, there's a large constituency to try to address this problem. So, Madam Chair, we think this is a very good bill, and we appreciate working with you on it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Aronson. Any questions for this witness? All right, thank you very much. Ms. Aberholden. All right, and on deck we have Jessica Webster and Shannon Mitchell. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Sue Aberholden, Executive Director of NAMI Minnesota. And first, I just really want to thank the chair and the committee members for your ongoing concern about the mental health of our students. I really appreciate it, and you've had a lot of focus on that this year and in past years, and we appreciate it. So just a couple things. On the threat assessment language, I'm going to say I'm not quite happy with it yet in terms of the suicide piece, because what we want to do is not just that the school threat assessment team follows the district suicide prevention plan, but it's really who's ever in contact with that child at that moment. So you don't want to wait for a team to get involved and things like that. So it's still not quite following some of the model suicide prevention policies. So you know, I'm happy to kind of work with you a little bit more to kind of tweak that just a little bit more. We do appreciate the non-exclusionary policies. I think sometimes the children who kind of push themselves away are really the ones that we want to bring closer to us to help them kind of learn and grow. The school resource officer training, we've seen the report from a couple years ago where the school resource officers took big surveys, and one of the things they really wanted to learn about was, frankly, children's mental health. But I would also want to make sure that you know that that last year the legislature appropriated over $10 million for police officer training, peace officer training, and I was on the committee that developed some of the standards, and one of them is around de-escalation and understanding mental illness as well. And so hoping that you know there could be some differentiation there in terms of how those funds are used to make sure that we're getting you know the kind of training that we need. I did want to add on page 16, when you talk about the school district referring the pupil's parent or guardian to a list of community mental health programs, that perhaps you might also include, there's not many advocacy organizations, but if a family is trying to navigate a mental health system, it might be nice if they could contact, you know, us or MACMA or PACER or something like that so that they get some help in doing that. There's not many advocacy organizations out there. I really appreciate the expansion of the schooling to mental health grants. That's been a program I've advocated for forever, and we do think it's really effective. We do want to make sure that when we talk about expanding the services, that we make sure that we keep the current schools and providers that we have that are doing a good job, and that what we're doing is really expanding it beyond. And I would agree that it's not just to school districts and school buildings that don't have one. In some of the schools, they have a very, very part-time therapist. Expanding that to meet the kids is really what we want to do. We don't want to rearrange the deck chairs. We want to just be able to kind of expand outward. And I also really appreciate the suicide prevention training funding. I think this will make it very easy for all the teachers and even others in the state of Minnesota who work in schools to really get that evidence-based training, really know what to do when a child comes up to them and is feeling suicidal. They'll really know how to respond and be able to help that child and refer them to the right place. Thank you again, truly. I know from my counterparts across the country that typically education committees don't talk about children's mental health, and you do, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aberholden. Representative Moran, I think has a
Thank you,
question for
Madam Chair. So I was just thinking about the 8-year-old or third grader that went to school and had a knife and cut some of his classmates. And with the work that you're doing around school-linked mental health initiatives, because I was just thinking, that child was sent home. We can't prosecute, but what type of services, right, is that child receiving? Because evidently, there's something going on, right? And we often know that kids who are violent, it's a good possibility that maybe some violence is going on. But do you is your work linked to how you engage in those type of instances? And do you use trauma-informed practices? Or is it, can you talk a little bit about the practices that you use?
Sure.
Ms. Aberholden.
Madam Chair, Representative Moran. So remember, NAMI itself doesn't do the schooling, it's the mental health providers. But many of our mental health providers are trauma-trained, informed trained, so that is something. With a child that's that young, typically what happens is actually he or she becomes part of the child protection system because something is clearly wrong, right? 8-year-olds don't typically do that, and so it's kind of what happened to you? Why was that, why did you respond in that way? I would certainly hope that that child would be referred to a mental health provider so that they can really look at what's happening and really help that child and that family to try to figure out how to get that child kind of back on the right path. But it's really unusual for a child that age to do something like that, and typically they would be referred to child protection.
Representative Moran.
So NAMI don't intervene in the schools. So how are those connections made?
Ms. Aberholden.
So, Madam Chair, Representative Moran, so we're just the advocates. And so we have mental health providers across the state, and they're the ones who receive grants and then collaborate with the schools and co-locate in the schools. So I don't know if that particular school had a schooling to mental health grant, or the provider is in that school. Something that it's easy enough to look up to see. But if there was a mental health provider in the school, most likely they would engage them right away because we would consider that a crisis situation.
And Madam Chair.
Representative Moran.
So that's my hope too, because often we have our schools who are lacking that type of support, from the social worker to the mental health professionals to the nurses. And so I don't know if you can answer this or someone else can answer. So we are allocating more grants to provide this type of services in the schools, Madam Chair?
Yes, Representative Moran. So, generally this money is carried in the HHS finance bill, and so I think right now it's $11 million appropriation. We are carrying an additional $5 million, but it's coming from our appropriation this time around, so it will be added to that existing $11 million for a total of 16.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I think that's great, because we know this is an arena, an area that has been a huge shortage. But we're seeing this need increase, if not yearly, if not monthly, daily. So it's good to know that we're being intentional about putting those resources into the schools. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Everholden. And Jessica Webster. And next up is Shannon Mitchell, if Shannon is here. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. My name is Jessica Webster. I'm a staff attorney with Legal Aid, and I'm here in a really narrow capacity just to talk about the lunch shaming provision in this bill. And I just want to say thank you for including it. I want to thank Representative Jurgens, who's not here, but who has worked a lot on this issue, and Representative Erickson, who really made the space in her committee for a discussion on it. I like that in Minnesota there's a growing recognition that we shouldn't be punishing or holding kids responsible for meal debts, and we need to try to keep those transactions between adults. I think there are a number of advocates who would like to see this go further, and there are states now that are starting to limit and ban cheese sandwiches, but I don't think we're there yet. It's not something I asked for this session, and I am recognizing the school debts and the district debts that are happening with school meals. And so I am definitely committed to working with the school boards and the School Nutrition Association and looking at meal debt in the future. But I'm really glad that this is the direction we're heading, and we're protecting kids first in this conversation. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Webster. Any questions for her? All right, thank you very much. Shannon Mitchell. And up next, Brad Lundell. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Shannon Mitchell, and I'm testifying on behalf of Educators for Excellence Minnesota. Our membership of approximately 2,000 members from primarily the metro area select our policy focus areas each year. This year, our two campaigns were equitable school funding and promoting non-exclusionary discipline practices and addressing racial disparities in discipline. So to that end, I just want to talk to the provisions in the bill that relate to those two campaigns. To start with, I would like to direct your attention to page 9, line 2, the school revenue generation and spending legislative auditor study. And thank you, Madam Chair, for working with us on this issue. Our broader membership and our policy team members shared experiences of teaching in schools where students who have greater needs seem to be getting a lot less than their more affluent peers. The policy team really dug in to answer the question, where is money currently being spent? Is it being spent equitably, and to what results? It became apparent very early on that there is a lack of financial transparency, and answering those questions was near impossible. So we are excited for a legislative audit study to do that, and we think the timing pairs well with ESSA, as the state will have to start in continuing to do school level reporting. We would like to see ways that reporting could be more understandable, more transparent, and so we can really understand if the students that are generating the money are accessing it. Shifting gears a bit towards our other campaign issue, and this has been a top priority for our members for the last 3 years, non-exclusionary discipline and ending racial disparities in discipline. Because this is a top priority for our members and as a member of the Solutions Not Suspensions Coalition, we think there are some really positive non-exclusionary discipline provisions in this bill that we're excited about. Specifically, we feel that the following provisions would help minimize the negative impacts that happen when students are suspended, which can further non-engagement and relate to continued problems when students come back. So we think requiring districts to give students full credit for the work completed during a dismissal is an important step forward. We also think requiring school administrators to ensure that alternative education services are provided when a pupil is suspended for more than 5 days is a good step forward. Additionally, improving communications with parents, such as requiring administrators to notify parents when students are removed from class for more than 5 days, or when a student encounters a student resource officer, are important provisions that get everyone on the same page. Lastly, we think this bill could include additional language that is included in the Senate bill This includes requiring school administrators to communicate with parents when their child is put into seclusion. And we also think the Senate provisions that require handing students written notification at the time of suspension that tells them the length and the readmission date, along with a list of non-exclusionary practices that were tried and why they didn't work, are important provisions that are in the Senate bill that we would like to see in this bill. And so with that, I would just like to thank you, Madam Chair and committee members.
Thank you. I think we have a question for you. Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How does E3 feel about the language at the top of page 13, the expulsion for making a threat? Does that fit with your values of non-exclusionary discipline and looking at racial disparities?
So we have concerns, I would say, about the unintended impact of this language. Our members have hands down had concerns with zero tolerance policies in general, and we see the disproportionate impact these policies have on students of color. So we are not supportive of that language.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Ms. Mitchell, just to follow up, so even with the school board permissive authority to modify on a pupil-for-pupil basis?
Yeah, I think this gets at Representative Bennett's question about balance. The way that I'm reading it, and this is the way that I read the language, it's hard for me to suss out like legally how this differs from what is currently in law. It seems like school boards already can expel or not expel, and it seems like with this language they can expel or not expel. So to me, it's hard for me to suss out what this is actually doing, I guess.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Lentell's next, and after him, Leah Hood and Beth Anderson, Education Minnesota from Lakeville.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Brad Lundell, Executive Director, Schools for Equity in Education, but also here on behalf of the Minnesota Association for Special Educators, Minnesota Administrators of Special Education, and also the Minnesota Association for Pupil Transportation. As many have said here, I really want to congratulate the committee on coming up with a target. There's the old disco song, more and more and more, but we know that you've done what you can to this point, and we're certainly going to support you in your efforts here. I think that the bill is very solid given the target that you have. The school safety piece is again, something that we've worked with, and have weighed in on several times during the legislative session. I think the flexible dollars going out to school districts, it's a good, it's a good amount of money going forward. Also, the LTFMR, expanding the use of that, I think to include school safety projects is also valid. This is the thinnest special ed article I think I've ever seen in an education funding bill. We were hoping that there would be some attention given to special ed, especially given the Knobloch bill that was up here a couple weeks ago. I think that as we move forward to the rest of the session, we would like to see some attention given to that. I think I echo the comments of others here tonight in talking the importance of doing something in terms of special education, but again, that will be dictated by the target. We very much support the task force that is contained in the bill, and we look forward to putting in our 2 cents as the ultimate task force is formed during the conference committee. On behalf of the Minnesota Association for Pupil Transportation, I want to thank you for putting in the $50,000 grant for the school bus safety stop arm promotion of that legislation. Just for a point of information, every year the Department of Public Safety has a day when bus drivers report all of the stop arm violations they witness. Not that they turn into law, but they witness during the day. In 2017, that was 700 in one day, not 70, but 700, and not in a month or a week, but in a day. Roughly, if you do the math, that comes out to about 120,000 stop arm violations per year. Not to say that every day would have 700, but let's just say there's at least 100,000 stop arm violations in a year. We've raised the fines. We've done all kinds of things to try to curb that from happening. But I think, number one, I think there's a tremendous ignorance of the law. And number two, I think that getting something out there to the public to inform them that when you see a school bus with the 8-way lights, red lights flashing, and the stop arm out, you stop. It's that simple. And I think that hopefully we can put together a strong public campaign to educate the public as to the importance of that law. So, with that, I look forward to working. Thank you for your time tonight, and I look forward to working with the committee and as you move this bill forward. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Lundell? All right. Thank you, and welcome.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Leah Hood. I teach 9th grade AP Human Geography at Lakeville South High School in Lakeville, Minnesota. I would like to begin by thanking you for your efforts to try and address school safety issues, including school-linked mental health grants. That said, there is so much more that needs to be done. Our students desperately need more counselors and mental health care workers. They need full-service community schools, lower class sizes, access to voluntary pre-K, and restorative practices. These are the things that our students, families, and educators need. The bill in its current form does not include money for student support services. Minnesota's counselor-to-student ratio ranks nearly last in the nation. If you believe that all students who need help with their mental health should have access to support staff and services, then you must dedicate funding specifically for that help and the people who provide it. Every day, my colleagues and I see students who do not have access to the staff and support that they need. Unfortunately, there's not enough time this evening for me to share the numerous stories of how this negatively impacts my students. Another concern I have about this bill is that it does not address the special education cross-subsidy. For years, the legislature has known that our schools have had to reprioritize our already tight budgets because our special education costs are rising and state and federal appropriations are not keeping up. The governor appropriated money in his budget for this, and we are hopeful that the final version of this bill will as well. One of the most troubling parts of this bill to me is the star rating system. Parents, teachers, and the public want honest and comprehensive assessment of our schools. To be respectfully honest, this proposal feels unprofessional to me. It oversimplifies grossly the work done and the progress made by our students, educators, and schools across the state every day. Regardless of the intentions of this proposal, it's discouraging and frustrating to me as a teacher at what looks to me like a step backwards, hearkening back to a No Child Left Behind and what was measured then, and it didn't work. And I really did think that we were moving forward from those days with ESSA and moving to a multiple measures assessment. And I just look at this star rating and I see the past, not the future there. Schools are complex with a range of students with different backgrounds, needs, challenges, and successes. And our schools are much more than a star rating. Thank you so much for your time and consideration on this long day and for this opportunity for me to share my comments with you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for this witness? All right, thank you for taking time to be here. We appreciate it. And are you Miss Anderson? I am. All right, well, come on up. And after you, Daniel Sellers, and then either Rachel Deppa or Rachel Berger. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Beth Anderson. I'm a music teacher on leave from Estill Public Schools, currently working as a field staff for Education Minnesota. In this capacity, I represent the members who lost their jobs because of the closing of Crosswinds last year. These members and I have worked diligently this year, along with some of my colleagues, as well as staff from Perpich and Management and Budget, in an effort to settle the severance payments for these dedicated individuals. Unfortunately, we are almost a year past the closing of the school, and the matter of the severance payments has remained unresolved. During a grievance process, these teachers have finally been paid for the week that was cut from their contractually agreed to calendar. They also received 2 months of health insurance premiums. These payments were part of contractual requirements, not severance payments. In trying to determine what a fair severance might be, we looked at a contract provision from 2000 when layoffs occurred due to the closure of state hospitals, and teachers then were each given a maximum of $7,500 in severance. The Crosswind teachers have proposed that they receive $2,000 per year of service to the school. There would be a maximum of 4 years of service for any teacher because that is how long the state ran the school and the agency. There are 16 teachers involved, 2 of them who are part-time. We've calculated that it would be a total of between $71,000 and $77,000 to do this severance payment. No FICA would be included and required, as we are proposing that the money would go into a healthcare savings plan. We believe that this is a fair and reasonable way to spend the allocation from last year and look forward to continuing to work together with Perpich and MMB to resolve this issue for our teachers. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. Any questions for Ms. Anderson? All right. Thank you very much. Daniel Sellers, followed by a representative from Decoding Dyslexia. Mr. Sellers.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Daniel Sellers, Executive Director with Ed Allies, statewide education advocacy nonprofit. I want to just comment on a few portions of the bill, but first I want to thank you and the committee for your hard work in putting this bill together. I'll start in echoing some of what my colleague Shannon Mitchell from Educators for Excellence said about the dismissals policies. We're excited about a number of the provisions in there, but we would love to see, in particular, requiring that schools notify families when suspensions, arrests, or seclusions occur, requiring schools to provide suspended pupils the opportunity to make up work. We think that we know that kids cannot succeed when they're pulled out of school, but if they are missing work, we want to make sure that they can remain on track, and we give them every opportunity to be successful in spite of mistakes that they might make, and we encourage you to work with the Senate to get to a place that aligns with the spirit of the language that you all have and what you all have heard from so many testifiers to this point. Second, just to thank you for the language around testing. In particular, we believe that tests be administered as late as possible in the school year. We understand that that may mean different things for different school districts, but I'll just say as a former teacher who taught in North Carolina, and we gave our tests basically the middle to the end of May, it gave me the longest possible time to ensure that my kids were prepared for that exam. And as an educator who wanted my students to succeed, I wanted every single day that I could to give them high quality instruction to ensure that they could be as successful as possible when they were given the opportunity to demonstrate their mastery of standards. So appreciate that language and ask you to keep supporting that. And finally, on the STAR rating system, thank you both to our author, Representative Peterson, and Chair Erickson for working together to improve the bill. We appreciate the improvements that have been made. Next year, 40 states across the country will have summative school ratings. So Minnesota, if we don't adopt this, will be actually in the minority, and that we're moving in the direction of more states adding summative ratings as part of the federal ESSA plan. We heard earlier tonight from Commissioner Casilius that if the quality of water at a school was low, that we should notify parents and we should demand that that be changed. And all we're asking is the same be true for the quality and level of academic achievement. So thank you very much, and stand for any questions.
Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sellers, same question about the language on expulsions on the top of page 13. Does that align with Ed Allies' values of expulsion as the first choice in the case of a threat?
Mr. Sellers.
Madam Chair, Representative Dabney, we, similar to Commissioner Casilius, have concerns based on which comes first. We support the idea that school boards be able to make decisions on a case-by-case basis, but we would like for the default to be more open to different solutions on a case-by-case basis, and rather than having the default be an automatic exclusion.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Grisha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Sellers, I'd like to ask the same question that Representative Dabney did, but I ask it in this context. What about if it's a terroristic threat to a teacher, and how does this become workplace safety?
Mr. Sellers.
Madam Chair, Representative Grisha, the language terroristic threat is a loaded one because I think even that, it can be subjective to decide whether or not something is a terroristic threat.
I'm sorry, how would you characterize, Madam Chair, how would you characterize a death threat?
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Sellers.
Madam Chair, Representative Grisha, a death threat, I think on a case-by-case basis, if a student had intent or malice in what they were saying, that should be elevated to certainly include punishment up to and including exclusion. I just don't, I think that anytime you have something where you say, no matter what, if this thing is said or if this thing is done without contextualizing it, without understanding the age of the student, whether that student has special needs, whether that student, not that I would hope that any student would say something like that in jest.
Madam Chair?
But contextually, I think that those things are important.
Representative Grisha.
I'll let you off the hook. I appreciate, I heard the gymnastics in your conversation. If I was in your shoes, I'd be saying the same thing. My point is this. If I call this an offhanded remark, it's one thing. If I call this a terroristic threat, it's another thing. If I call this a death threat, it becomes a different thing. My point is, and I'm not saying there's a final decision here, but my point is, these are harsh comments made in an environment that we can't get wrong. I don't know what the answer is. I think this language is an attempt to get there. But I'm just trying to point out in committee discussion that how this context happens is important. And as I've seen the emails, the parents that have said to me, my kid should be able to go to school and feel safe and not have terroristic threats, not have death. Those are the words that I'm hearing from the public. And so I apologize for putting you on the spot a little bit and twisting this around, but that's what we're dealing with. And I appreciate the conversation from the other side of the aisle as we're trying to get our arms around this. But at the end of the day, I've been a teacher. And if you have a student that makes a threat to you, there's different calibers there, that's a super uncomfortable spot to come back to every single day. And I've been in the situation where you walk out in the parking lot and wonder where that kid is. And I'm talking about small town Minnesota. So I just don't think it's this easy to just say, how we're going to dismiss this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Sellers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to very briefly respond. And I don't, this is not my area of expertise for Ed Allies. Josh Crossan, who's my colleague, leads our work on the discipline work, and he's down in New Orleans visiting some schools that have, by the way, phenomenal things to say about their they do graded schools, but there's some of the rating system down there. But if I can just quickly respond, the groups that I understand are advocating for the solutions, not suspensions, for a new and different way to look at student disciplines and exclusions, there's not a single one of those groups that believes that we should not, for example, be allowed to exclude students or suspend students or even expel students. There are situations where that is the right and appropriate action to take. I think the concern is when that's the default or that's the automatic decision and there isn't room and space for context and discussion. I think all groups support all punishment up to and excluding exclusion as an option, just not necessarily the first and only option.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Hi. And Mary Gilbert, you had signed up, so you'll be next, and then we'll just go to anybody else who wanted to testify. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Rachel Deppa, and I am here representing Decoding Dyslexia tonight. I wanted to first thank you for your bipartisan support over the last 5 years on all of our dyslexia legislation. We're excited about the opportunities that you guys have provided for educators, not only to impact, but to improve the reading proficiency of all their students. It shows that you're a committee dedicated to prioritizing the needs of the educators and the students. In light of this, we would like to draw your attention to Article 3, Section 11, subsection 2, or if you're like me, you just want a page number, it's 41.4 through 41.8. That section reads, a school district must screen for dyslexia all students in kindergarten, grade 1, and grade 2 who are not reading at grade level, and any student in grade 3 or higher who demonstrates a reading difficulty. We have a concern about the wording on line 41.6. Our concern is the subjectiveness of that. It allows for teachers to determine, and most of them don't have training in dyslexia recognition, which kids would qualify for that screening. And so it becomes an equity issue. When a student is in a school where teachers are familiar with dyslexia, they will get the opportunity to have that screening and it'll be found. A student like my son, it wasn't found, but he did many screenings. And so that's where that equity issue comes in. We're asking that the wording be changed to read that a school district must screen all students between kindergarten and grade 2, not every year, but just once in that time frame to catch those students who show signs and traits of dyslexia. We're not asking that they diagnose, just screen them for the traits, because we know that even in kindergarten, these kids have developed coping skills that can mask those traits until they hit 2nd grade, and even 3rd grade, where they're reading to learn now and they're no longer learning to read. And then they start to fall further and further behind. When we talk about kids who aren't reading at grade level going into 3rd grade, but they were at 2nd grade, we've lost a lot of time there, where if we were remediating from kindergarten or even 1st grade on, those kids would never fall behind. They would never feel what the kids who fall behind feel like. They would be not in our special ed population. We're saving money for the schools by eliminating the cost for that screening. The other thing I wanted to address is many people have been concerned about the screening, who would screen, the costs, the training. Our goal is to take the subjectiveness out of the screening. Many of these screeners are either online or they don't require the teacher to have any training to administer the screening. And so that's where we're able to say, you know what, a teacher can administer it, they can look at the results, their objective results, and they can say, you know what, this child does show traits of dyslexia. And maybe that's something we need to look at as far as remediation goes. It's one of those things where we're looking at, are we doing what we can to ensure that we're putting children and the educators first? And I would argue that this committee has a history of doing that, especially for our dyslexic children. And we really do want to thank you guys for everything you've done over the last few years to help us. I'll stand for questions.
All right. I had a question for you, Ms. Deppa. So you mentioned on that line on page 41, 41.6, having concerns about that, but you said two different things. And so what I took away from your comments, you wanted all students screened at some point between kindergarten and 2nd grade, and then later you said who are showing signs or traits of dyslexia. So those are two different things. Either we're screening everybody or only those with signs, and we interpreted signs, or could be if you're just not reading at grade level, so there may be something going on there. So could you just clarify for me what your preference is or what you're advocating for?
Yep. So, Madam Chair, the bill right now reads that all students in kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2 who are not reading at grade level, we would like to take out the at grade level part and screen all students between kindergarten and grade 2 to catch those children and give them the remediation. And so we would ask that line 41.6 just read all students between kindergarten and grade 2.
Okay, so you would include everybody, even the high flyers, maybe a kid in 2nd grade who's reading at a 6th grade level, you would screen them as well.
I would, Madam Chair, and the reason I'm going to say this is we've had people come forward to us who have said, I succeeded through kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, even 4th grade, and didn't know I had dyslexia until I started to read for content and I wasn't able to get the comprehension piece. And then they find out and they're diagnosed and they're shocked that they have it.
Okay. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, Ms. Deppa, we've really struggled with this. We have worked so long and hard with you and even with our new specialist at the Department of Education. And we have tried so hard to come up with language that is going to work. So I hope that you can bear with us and keep working with us on this language because, this is intimidating to our districts, to our teachers who don't understand the technique that you look for or the characteristics, as we should call them. So, believe me, we have worked so hard. Representative Loon and our staffs, we have spent countless hours trying to figure out what the best language is because we want to help these children. Honestly, we do. And we're so appreciative of you. But, if you could continue to work with us because it is hard to come up with just the right language to use so that we're doing the right thing, but maybe in baby steps. So thank you.
Madam Chair, Representative
Ms. Deppa.
Thank you. I mean, we really do. We want to thank you so much for everything you've done. What you gave us this year is amazing. As parents, as a member of Decoding Dyslexia, I'm even a school board member, and I look at what you've done to give our teachers tools, to give our kids help identify those kids who are falling through the cracks. And we looked at it today again as the revisions came through, and we thought, wow, look at everything they gave us. And we even debated discussing this little bit because we thought they gave us so much. And as baby steps keep coming, and we are super appreciative of it. And if this is what we get, we're happy. We're ecstatic. If we can get the wording changed, we're happy with that too. But we really do appreciate both sides of the aisle coming together, supporting our kids, making them the priority over anything else.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Gilbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a member of the committee, I'm Mary Gilbert from the St. Paul Public School, and I know the hour is late, so I will be brief. I do want to thank the chair for the additional revenue for Safe Schools and the ability to amend our long-term facilities plan. I also appreciate including the governor's recommendation to put Minneapolis and St. Paul in its own region for VPK, and the highly mobile and homeless provision that was included in an earlier bill. Like some of the other testifiers, I am concerned about the array of some of the new mandates that are in the bill, especially in light of the fact that we do have such a large special education and EL cross-subsidy. And even with the non-exclusionary policies that are in there, a lot of these kids are in our special education program. So the funding around special education impacts our ability to provide safe places for these kids when they're having a bit of a meltdown. And I think you saw that when you got to visit the school. We're also concerned about the number of slots that we have for the School Readiness Plus. There'll be about 280 young, very at-risk kids who we won't be able to guarantee a slot because we won't know if there's going to be any base funding for those kids next year when we do our enrollment. Our parent choice fair is generally at the end of January. We start sending out notices in February, and families come to the school to register in March or early April. And that is a big unknown to us in light of the fact that we're not going to know what the general education formula is going to be because the legislature isn't going to be done until the end of that. And so if there was any way at the end of the day or the session that we could try and provide some base funding for that, I think it would go a long way for us to be able to plan thoughtfully for those kids. And as I mentioned in earlier testimony, the kids that are attending our programs cannot, they have barriers for attending private preschool programs because of their ability to pay, their lack of transportation, or the fact that many of them are EL families and they don't have the EL support that's necessary for them to participate in the program. And finally, we do share some of the concerns related to the star rating system. I think we have some pretty amazing schools, especially at the high school level, with a high number of EL students or a high number of special education students that have some phenomenal success related to their graduation rate, the number of college credits those kids are earning, and their placement in either a community college system, the University of Minnesota, or some other internship or military service. And I don't think the star rating system would not reflect accurately on a school, for example, like Washington Technology. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
All right, any questions for Ms. Gilbert? All right. All right, is there other members here of the public who wish to testify on the DE2 amendment? All right, Mr. Heller, come on down. welcome to the committee, and please just identify yourself for the record.
I come to speak tonight at the Education Finance in the House on April 17, 2018 regarding 4328 DE2, I guess. First of all, it starts.
I'm sorry, can you
My name
say-
is Rick Keller, and I officially represent the twice exceptional Minnesota Statute 120B15 for House File 1072. The print disabled found in the IDEA Act of Law, Individual Education Act, also moved into the Higher Education Opportunity Act of 2008. Next to the blind, there's only two types of handicapped people that are adults found in the Higher Education Act, including Universal Design for Learning. I don't know if the department wants to yield to a question, otherwise I can move on. And the question would have been this to the chair about setting the reading level of the special education forums 3 years ago and where they are with that. I did ask for a informational hearing, but I hadn't heard back from anybody, so I'll take silence as no answer. Thank you.
Please give us, do you have any other thoughts on the bill before us?
Okay, let's go to page, I guess, go to page 11 on the risk assessments. Well, we look at risk assessments, but when will they look at the assessment that kids enjoy reading? I cannot find a single document in a guiding document, the State Department. They can correct me anytime they wish. Otherwise, I'll figure that my answer is correct since I can't get a question through the chair. That they do not, when they have guiding documents for school districts to target services, nowhere do they ask in those end results if a kid enjoys reading. I think if you're going to do a risk assessment, you better look at if they're enjoying the content and the access in the classroom. That's a very relevant piece because No Child Left Behind under item F, or is it, yeah, F, motivation and development of reading and maintenance of reading. So if we're not creating kids that enjoy reading and accessing it, and frankly, is it really reading? I think that's a coined word now. I think it's understanding. SocialSecurity.gov shows a plugin called Browse Aloud. And for those adults that are going to, were kids at one time, the words are highlighted and read out loud. And it does not mention blind. It does not mention visually impaired. On page, for instance, 1231, reading intervention. Why don't you connect in that reading assessment piece or intervention when the kids get done if they actually enjoy reading after the so-called strategies worked, stuck on them. Motivation, engagement, participation. They go home, they take their homework. The National Social Accessibility Standards required all the books to be digitized in 2007 through the Act of Congress of 2004 and the IDEA Act. There's a reason why they got digitized, so they can read out loud. Think about on 1427, emotional behavior disturbances. In 2006, the National Education Association wrote a paper called The Twice Exceptional Dilemma. In that report, those are special ed kids that get labels. And if something emotional is affecting them, social emotional, anxiety and depression, they're not connected in the classroom, they're not doing their homework when they go home, they're not going to engage with their classmates. You just created a disconnected student that has the potential becoming a risk assessment. Health literacy in 1991, the presidential order, executive order, targeted what health literacy is. Health literacy is critical to when kids are leaving elementary and middle school, the time they hit high school, and ready for employment and perhaps future education and for independent living. Item 4, I got school district's website, page 39. Once we start using school districts putting stuff on their websites, we need to consider 508, 1973 Rehabilitation Act. read out loud, browse aloud. Everything now is going to read out loud. It's not that you can read. Do you understand oral language for future education and employment for independent living? Every time this legislature puts online for school districts, and they're exempt from 508, yet we currently have the Purpose Center on 14712, which are required to file a 508. Number 5, civics. 6224 is the page. At what point do we let kids know about their civil rights and self-advocacy? When are we going to have a curriculum for them? So when they stand up with that single sheet of all those years of being labeled with a disc on their ability, that when they go to future higher education and future employment, they're going to use that because that's their special design instruction services for life, to be independent. That's a real relevant piece. That's a UDL sheet for students. Universal Design for Learning. If I go back to page 39, this is something to really think about heavily. The total special education system links over 1,000-page documents. Most of them school districts are required to have those. And they're not special education forms. I don't know how they're going to come up with setting a reading level for those. I'm assuming they're not going there because they're not reading forms. So, but this links the mental. This is basically their procedures and guidelines how special ed's going to be run in the district. I cannot find very few thesis manuals posted online for parents to access, and not to mention they're not fully accessible. Image format. How can we ever effectively communicate if we have a static read, a silent read online, yet the dynamic read is what we need? Browse aloud, socialsecurity.gov, uscourts.gov. At what point, for instance, 41.6, it talked about screening just recently on the dyslexia bill. At what point are we going to do screening not just for pre-K, for gifted? At what point are we going to get serious about not a disc, but about ability, about your domains of giftedness? The Purpose Center does not mention gifts and their procedure to join in their school. However, they do have academic gift. Everything else is talent. We need to discriminate the difference between a talent and a gift. I proposed to Ms. Erickson for the advisory committee to look at a State Department document that mentions reading disability and print disability together. Who are the gifted? Who are the talented? Because right now there's nothing in the Minnesota Statute 120B that specifically says what a gift or a talent. It's all merged together. School districts get together 4 times a year and they come up what those are going to be, but they're not discriminated against. How important will it be for these leaders here to know, and the public, what's the difference between a gift and a talent? And if they're the same, get rid of one of them. We don't want something that's going to, frankly, confuse. And the handout I have here, you're welcome to, it's online, from Mr. Melcher, specifically says, end quote at the end, there's no separate code for twice exceptional programs. Your special ed, why would you need one? They got special design instruction services. Yet tell me, last year, the document I shared with Ms. Erickson in her policy committee, 1% on a national level of 504 students and special ed are going in advanced placement. We don't even know if they complete them. This is the Minnesota pipeline: selection, acquisition, and use. That's found in Labor Law 29, Chapter 31, assist technology for people with disabilities. It's also found in the Minnesota Department of Education IT report to the legislature in February. I've shared those with Ms. Erickson and a few others. Yet here we are with the advisory committee, going back to that again, that doesn't get into universal design for learning on page 14 of that document. AEM, access educational materials? What's the relevance, unless you put a little meat on the bone to know what you're going to look at? The auditor's reports, quote me if I'm wrong, do not look at accessibility for students. Yet, is it not true they're not getting appropriate access? Even though it's instructional, at what point do they take their homework home and get instruction from their own computer? Because there's a reason why the materials became digital in the Act of Congress of 2004, and by 2007, all book publishers were required to meet the National Trust Accessibility Standards.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Heller. We appreciate your testimony.
I like that one thing about your STAR system. Do we want to use the STAR system based on the world's best workforce, 5 elements? Or would you rather use IDEA law? IDEA, the root statement of IDEA is this: future education, employment, for independent living. However you want to qualify it, quantify it, but on task is, the end result is, what lens do you want to look through? Because now we have quantified and qualified Lexile and the MCAs for each grade. And this relates hopefully to the report that may come back to the legislature. However, I think there's an obligation for leaders to be involved in this. I don't want to be isolated. I've said it again. This is purely for the leaders. I dropped the seed. It's for the leaders to make it happen. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm open to any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Heller. All right. Not seeing any questions. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify? Oh, please come forward.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Brenda Burnside. I actually am speaking. I work with Shannon at Educators for Excellence, but at this point I'm speaking as a parent with children who have graduated through the St. Paul Public Schools. And I guess I just have basically one concern. I was thinking about the language and listening to Representative Erickson and how the complexity of this issue is huge. And I understand that, and I thank you for your work on it, because I think you've done some really good work, and I think we've made some gains. But my question, the question that comes to mind for me is, when you look at the language that's provided here, it's not just what can we do with the language, but what can a person do with the language who does not have the right intent? How much damage could be done with these words if a person does not have the right intention toward a child or toward a child's education? So when I was looking at my children coming through school, I worked 12 years with special ed students at Roseville Area Middle School. And in the time that I was there, I have to say that there are teachers who have very good intent toward children and toward their education, but there are some that do not. So I'm wondering, what would this language do in the hands of someone who does not have good intent toward a child, or who feels like those children don't deserve the same level of education as every other child? I think about what kind of damage sometimes do we do children when we exclude them with non-exclusionary practices, how they feel thrown away, or how we make them feel like their contribution is less valuable than that of other children. I also think about even my own children and how they came through, and it was not without challenges. And there were times that I had to go to the school and I had to talk to their teachers or their principals about their intent, because I knew the child better than they did, right? So I could kind of cut through some of the red tape in terms of saying whether my children meant a violent act or whatever by doing something. My children have never been violent, thank you, but there are times when I could read through some of that. There were times as a special education educator that children threatened me. And I asked them the question, do you realize what you're saying? One student said to me, I haven't spazzed on a teacher in a long time. I said, spaz, what does that mean? Do you realize what you're saying? Are you saying, what is even a spaz, right? So having these conversations, I found that many times the students had no intention of doing anything. And I knew that too, but I wanted them to know it. I wanted them to say, yeah, I don't know what that means, or I don't know what I planned on doing, or I didn't think about it before. So I think with the complexity of these issues, not only do we as adults not know the answers, I think kids don't know the answers too. And I think it's our job to teach and train them to become the citizens that we want them to become. So I let every one of my students know I am invested in your education because I want you to pay my Social Security. I want you to get, not only do I want you to get a job, I want you to get a good one because I want to retire early. So, you know, and I think we have to impress that upon our children and let them know everybody has a valuable contribution to make. And I want to help you make the best one that you can so you can pay my Social Security. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Is it Burnside?
Burnside, Burnside.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Burnside? Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Ms. Burnside. When you're talking about the teacher that might not have a good intention toward a child or all the children?
Ms. Burnside.
Well, I tell you, it varies. There are teachers that I have seen, or adults in our building, who have held grudges on kids till the next day and the next day. At the end of my day, even when we had a rough day, and I've had some rough days with some special education students, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know what I say? You know what? Thank you for coming. I'll be here tomorrow when you get here. And that next day, I make it my business to say, good morning, how are you today? Yeah. To let them know that now we have a whole new start. This is a fresh new day. And you know what? I'm going to be in this struggle with you as long as you're willing to stay in it. I'm not going to give up on the interaction. I'm not going to give up on the relationship. And we as adults need to take that stand and say, I am the bigger person here, and I'm not going to carry this from day to day to day, and I'm not going to let you off the hook from getting a good education and paying my Social Security.
Because that's really important.
That's what's important. That's what's important, that we have an educated workforce, that we have kids who can participate fully in this society. Now, everybody won't be a doctor. I understand that. But you know what? There are kids who are out here and they have no idea what their contribution is going to be. But we have to let them know you have something to contribute as well. Yeah. And to the extent that we make them able to do that, they're successful.
Well, thank you for being in the classroom.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify? Going once, going twice. All right. Any other questions from committee members for myself, for nonpartisan staff? Otherwise, Bill? All right. So,
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Oh, Representative Erickson.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but are you going to tell us whether or not we're going to have an extended day tomorrow?
Yes, I would anticipate, it's possible, we will not finish in our regular committee time. So we have room 200 reserved tomorrow, beginning at what time? 5:30, or call of the chair. So the earliest we would reconvene would be 5:30.
Madam Chair?
So that's plans for tomorrow.
We have caucus tomorrow in room 200.
Yes, so. Oh. Okay. Yeah, and we have caucus as well. So, like I said, I think 5:30 is probably optimistic, just as things go around here. So, you know, it's probably going to be later, call of the chair. Any other questions? All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.